All right, well, hello everybody. My name is Derek De La Paz, and we are live here in northern Minneapolis, northeast Minneapolis, I should say, at Mill City Roasters. We're actually in the roasting campus, I guess we could call it. It's our little area where we teach our classes, mostly on weekends, but also on weekdays too. But we're actually going to do some live roasting for you all. And this is basically kind of a new thing that we're kind of working on right now. So I apologize if I fumble a little bit or I stumble or I put my foot in my mouth, because I probably will. But basically the process here is we're going to do some live roasting. And we're going to do that today, probably in a few minutes after I get done putting my foot in my mouth. And then we're going to take a break for probably like a day. And then we're going to have Lauren come on, and Lauren's going to basically do some extraction with these roasts that I do. And she'll do different extractions with different roasts. And then we're going to have a third video where we're going to get together and we're going to brew these and talk a lot about the finished product as a liquid form. But then we're also going to break down the process from beginning to end at that time too. So I think really a lot of what this is, and a lot of what Nick's idea was in creating the series, was basically we really want to start to facilitate a conversation around quality between the front of the house and the back of the house. And a lot of times in roasteries, in cafes, in wholesale roasting facilities, you don't have a lot of communication between front and the back, between barista, extractor, and roaster person. So we're just going to kind of try and do that, and we're going to do that in this simple kind of 3-video format. So I'm going to start off with the roasting side of it, and as soon as I get done talking through this intro, I'm going to actually roast some coffees, and we're going to get into that. So that's really what we're going to try and do here. So feel free to send your questions along, email questions, things like that. We're really just trying to basically start the conversation. That's really what this is about. We don't really have any solid coffee goals in mind. I don't have some crazy cool Panama Gesha that I've hidden behind me that I'm going to roast up, and then we're going to extract up, and we're going to be like, wow, this is officially 100-point coffee. We did it. We can now retire, happy coffee folk. That's really not what we're doing here. This is a situation where we're going to create questions. We're going to create questions. We're going to answer questions. We're going to create more questions. So if we end this with more questions than answers, we've done our job, or at least I've done my job, I want to say. So, all right. Now I'm going to get into the dorky technical stuff that I'm going to do, I guess. So, as you see right here, we have a 500-gram roaster. So we're going to use the 500-gram roaster for today's roasting. Really simple, easy. I really love the 500-gram roaster. We do a lot of sample roasting on the 500-gram roaster, but we're going to actually be doing full profile roasting today. So not sample roasting at all. This is profile roasting. Basically, I have 3 different blends that I'm going to use for this roasting, but I'm going to try and have the profiles stay the same. So my goals for my profile are pretty simple. I'm going to go for a little bit long on the dry. So I'm going to look for a 6-minute green to yellow transition, or some people might call it dry end. That first phase I want to end around 6 minutes. I'm looking for first crack around 10 minutes. So we're going to say 4 minutes post dry end, green to yellow transition. I'm looking for my crack. I'm going to actually, because I'm extending, or I'm kind of thoughtfully extending the first 2 phases of my roast, I'm going to purposely actually shorten the development phase. And I know some of you at home might be like, wow, that's kind of risky for an espresso. I agree, it is a little risky for espresso, but I've actually worked on this profile for a little bit. This isn't the first shot. This isn't my first bite at the apple. I've probably roasted this profile. I've been working on this profile for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I want to say. This is probably about the 7th or 8th roast of this profile, or a version of this profile. My early feedback was that we wanted to create more brightness and more acidity in the cup. So I'm basically working on that right now. That's kind of what we're going to do with these roasts. But I'm kind of also doing a little bit of a trick where I'm extending the first 2 phases and shortening the last phase. So I'm shortening the last phase so I can preserve that acidity. I want that brightness. But I don't want to shorten up the overall roast, because this is an espresso. It is going to be an extracted shot. And I'm a little worried that if I shorten up the overall roast, that we're going to get a lot of vegetal, a lot of sour, a lot of just unpleasant notes in this coffee. So I'm going to try and do both of the things I want to do, which is I want a sweet. I'm really focusing on sweetness and body in the overall shot, but at the same time, I want to try and keep some of the nuance around and the acidity and brightness. So that's why I'm kind of doing this long dry phase, kind of a longer mid phase too, and then really shortening up my development phase, because I'm really going to try and get the sweetness and body out of those first 2 phases. So really all I'm doing in development is kind of putting the cherry on top. capturing a lot of that acidity, capturing a lot of that nuance, and then just letting the coffee out of the roaster. So I'm not gonna go very long in development, which could be a little bit counterintuitive or opposite to the way you roast your espresso. I know when I first started roasting coffee, my espressos had super long development, post-crack developments. I'm gonna say 4 minutes on like a 12-minute or 12 to 14-minute roast. So really long. So this is a lot different than that. But you know what? We're just gonna figure it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does work, well then you all will have another feather in your cap or another trick that you can use in your future of being coffee roasters or coffee extractors. All right, well I think that we should be pretty much good to go. So that being said, I'm gonna start out with my first roast. The first roast is gonna be my blend. I'm calling it Dee's blend. It's not a blend, it's actually a single origin natural Ethiopian, but just so you know, it's still a blend. So we're gonna call it Dee's blend, but it's really just a single origin natural Ethiopian. When I first started roasting, that was the cat's pajamas when it came to espressos, was the SO natural Ethio. Now it's fallen out of favor, it's kind of old hat, so that's why I'm trying to bring it back, because I love it. The second roast we're gonna do, second blend, I'm calling it Nick's blend. It's gonna be a 50-50 blend of a honey Costa Rican and a washed Huehue Tenango Guatemalan. So and I'm gonna kind of roast it. Actually, we're gonna roast it all the same, but I went with that blend because I know Nick likes acidity, so I'm really gonna try and capture some of the acidity in that roast. Then the third one, I'm just gonna call Lauren's Espresso, and that's gonna be a 40% blend of Brazil, a 40% blend of Guatemalan, the Huehue again. The Brazil is actually a pulp natural from Minas, and then 20% of a washed Tanzania. So this is gonna be kind of more of the complex one. There's gonna be a lot going on in that one. I really kind of wanna hit all the marks. I want chocolate, I want a little spice, but I also want lemon and acidity and brightness and nuance in that one. So I'm really hoping that one kind of turns out to be the cat's pajamas, although I do kind of have a soft spot for that single origin SO. So those are gonna be the 3 coffees that I'm gonna do. And basically, as soon as I get done explaining this, we're just gonna turn around and we're gonna go. The roaster's already been warmed up for about 20 minutes. So I'm basically just gonna turn around, turn it off. We're gonna bring it down. I'm gonna use the same parameters for all 3 of these roasts. So I'm just gonna give those guys to you, or I'm gonna give that to you guys. 360 charge temperature. I know it's really low, just let me do it. So we're gonna do a 360, I'm gonna use PID 360 to charge. That's it. We're doing a full charge of 1 kg, or 500 grams, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm clicking way too much. Nick just took away my clicky pen. I get nervous, I'm sorry. So I don't put my foot in my mouth, I put my thumb on the clicker and I click it a lot. Okay, so we're gonna do a 360 charge temperature. That's a little low, I know, but our machines have performance and I can catch up. And like I said, I want a longer drying phase. So 360 charge, air is gonna be 50 on the dial on all the roasts. I'm gonna bring the air up to 60 on the dial at dry end, green to yellow. The drum speed is gonna be 90 on the dial, which would be 60 RPMs. So those are gonna be set all along. I'm gonna do 1 minute soak, and at 1 minute, I'm gonna do 1.3 kPa fuel. That's gonna be my initial start for all the roasts. Then at that point, I might manipulate it a little bit to try and get the roast to be similar. So I want them all to be the same. So when we do the final extraction, when Lauren gets to work on these coffees, really she's just looking at the actual ingredients, not at the overall roast. Although the ingredients will determine how the roasts a little bit, so that's something too. So nothing's ever perfect. All right, I think we're all ready and we're gonna go. So I'm just gonna turn the roaster off. We're gonna let it come down to temp. I'm gonna make sure my computer's on too. All right. And this roaster comes down to temp pretty quickly as the airflow is quite powerful. Okay, so now we're gonna use my 100% Ethio. That's right here. I'm actually gonna also track my notes on all these coffees too as I roast. So if you guys see me taking little notes on my book, that's what I'm doing. I've already pre-set up all my stuff too. That's why you guys probably aren't seeing me freak out a lot right now. So I already have my airflow to 50. That's my initial airflow setting. I already have my drum speed dialed in. And to be completely honest, I already have my fuel setting set. So I'm pretty good to go. So really at 370-ish, I'm gonna probably load the green hopper. And then like I said, we're gonna charge at 360. So there's 370. And like I said, once again, we're doing full 500 gram charges. I'm going to have to be a little quick on this, use my 2 hands. And I could be using 3. And then we're off. Okay, pretty simple. So like I said, I already have my initial airflow set. So right now I'm basically just kind of waiting for my 1 minute mark. So I'm gonna start my little notes here, which I already have, actually I already started. So that's the thing too, is I always write up to my first minute down, so I'm already ready to go. So 360 charge, 50 on my airflow, 0 on my fuel. At 1 minute, I'm gonna do 1.3 kPa. So I already know what I'm doing, so I don't have to freak out too much around what am I doing, making decisions. I like to kind of pre-plan at least the first part of my roast so that I have those, maybe the minute 2 to minute 3 to really start to analyze where I'm at and whether my plan was successful or not, and then I can make my adjustments. So we're about ready to come up on 1 minute. At 1 minute, like I said, I'm gonna turn the fuel on. So we have a little bit of time here. And also, just so you guys know too, I actually have a roasted sample of the first, actually not the first, the most successful of these espresso blends that I've built. All right. So that was 1 minute, and I actually turned the fuel on, and I actually did have to do an adjustment because I had it set to 1 kPa. So 1 minute, a little bit, maybe like 1 minute and 3 seconds. I brought the fuel up to, I'm gonna bring it down just another little smidge, 1.33 kPa. So 1 1/3 kPa roughly. So like I was saying earlier,
what was your charge temp?
my charge temp was 360 degrees Fahrenheit.
DC or?
PID temperature, sorry. We like to train all of our roaster operators to charge off the PID. PID is for warm up and for charge. And then from there we go to BT on the actual data login. So charge temperature was 360 PID. Okay, now we're coming up on 2 minutes, and I'll actually call off my times and temperatures to you all at home, in case you want to track time. I know when I'm watching a roaster roast, I want to. 2:15. So, and to be really honest too, I learned before there's these thinking devices that work for us, so I actually had to calculate my rate of rise, like, by myself. So I'll probably do a 1 minute rate of rise calculation at the end of every minute, which is a little bit backwards, but for me, that's the way I learned, and so it does help me. Even though I do have a live rate of rise thing going right over here. Oh yeah, like I said earlier, so I have a roasted sample that I actually have right here in front of me that I've actually roast color analyzed for the number, but I also will use this on the roaster to color match. So I'm not just purely looking for temperature, I'm actually looking for an actual color match from a previously roasted sample. That's how I'm gonna actually determine my finished temp, not on actually temperature, on color. And I do that a lot with roasting, I'm gonna say. All right, now we're coming up on 3 minutes. So 3 minutes, 2:53. So we're moving pretty quick here. That 1 minute was about a 40 ROR, which is a little quick, but it's mostly based on the turnaround temp. We turned a little bit low, you know, we're moving pretty fast. You folks at home don't want to put too much credence into actual RORs at certain parts of the roast. It's not super important because your roaster is going to have different thermocouples and you're going to be reading data differently. So don't just look at your roaster and say, wow, I can only hit 18 ROR at 2 minutes. I don't know, Derek's using some kind of magical roaster. No, it was more about the charge temperature, to be honest. When you do a lower charge temperature, you have a lower turning point, which then gives you more degrees to move. So you move a lot of degrees in that first couple minutes. It's a little bit tricky. All right, now we're coming up to 4 minutes. So this is the point now where I'm really gonna start looking for color transition, just to make sure my roaster's not moving too quickly. So at 4 minutes, I'm gonna track my time, the temperature. So it's looking like 284. So we've lost a little bit of ROR there for sure. So that's gonna be 31. So 31 ROR average over the last minute. So slowing down quite nicely. So now I'm gonna get on the trier. I'm just gonna look at the trier. Okay, it's just starting to get a little brighter color. So that's good. And I'm gonna check my airflow. Nice, so my airflow is solid. I'm happy with that. The color's looking really good. It's just starting to brighten up a little bit. Kind of that bright green smell. Ooh, it smells really good, like egg custard. Yep, we're coming up. I'm seeing green to yellow transition roughly around 310. I want to say on this machine right now. You know, on PID, on BT, it's going to be probably around 315. I'm going to say.
What's your max gas on this roaster?
Max gas on this roaster is actually, I'm going to say, let's just check it out. 4 kPa. 4 kPa on this roaster. 3.8 probably, to be honest. All right, so we're coming up on 5 minutes. So 5 minutes, 310. We're almost to dry end, I'm gonna say, or I should say green to yellow, I'm sorry. I keep saying dry end, that's like the older term. I'm trying to learn. But like they say, old dogs, they don't learn new tricks so well. Okay, I think 5:30 is when we're gonna see our green to yellow. Maybe a little earlier. Okay, I'm gonna call that right there. Yep, 5:28 at 3:20. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna increase my airflow. So I had it at 50. Now I'm gonna bring it up to 60. And for you people at home that are watching the video, I'll show you the lighter trick. All right, yep, so there's a little more bend to it, not a lot. I've also roasted this machine quite a bit, so I really know how those airflow adjustments will affect the overall roast. That does help. Practice makes perfect. And we're coming up on 6 minutes. 6 minutes, 3:32. All right, so that was a 22 ROR minute. So we're definitely slowing down quite a bit, which is good. Like I said, we hit green to yellow a little early, 30 seconds early. So we'll probably, in theory, also see first crack a little early too. So probably more like 9:30 would be our first crack goal. Maybe even as early as 9:15, to be honest. Okay, now I'm gonna get back on the tryer. You can never be on the tryer. Well, you could be on the tryer too much, I should say. Yep, just want to get a little scent going on there. It smelled a little bit spicy. There's a little spice to it. We're coming up on 7 minutes. 7 minutes. All right, so right now we have a live ROR of about 18. So that's really solid. I want to roll into, I actually don't want to lose too much ROR. So that's one thing you guys are probably going to notice is I'm probably not going to do any fuel adjustments. We'll see. We'll just see how it goes because I have a certain goal, and as far as a rate of rise I want to carry into crack. 350, 7 minutes was 350. So 2018, so we're losing our rate of rise. So even with no fuel adjustments, no airflow adjustments, we're losing our rate of rise. Like in the last 2 minutes, we've gone down by about 8 rate ROR. So that's just the natural way that the machine roasts and the coffee takes on heat. And obviously there'll be a certain point where the coffee will dry up, probably around crack, post-crack, that it actually will start picking up in speed quite a bit if you don't make adjustments. But at this point, the coffee's absorbing energy, I'm putting in a consistent stream of energy, and it's slowly going down. All right, we're coming up on 8 minutes.
Is this the Guji?
No, this is Ethiopian Aricha. This is an Aricha, an Yirgacheffe. Aricha village, Yirgacheffe is the sub-region.
Do we still have this?
We do. We do. I went deep on it, but it didn't seem like I went deep enough. It's very popular, and it's very good, to be honest. So that was 8 minutes, 365. So I'm still holding up. I haven't adjusted my rate of rise at all. Or actually my rate of rise, my fuel. I haven't adjusted my fuel or my airflow. I might lower my airflow if I just start to pick up momentum of ROR. But that last minute was 15. So we went from 22 to 18 to 15. So we're just nice incremental kind of slowdown. Although we are kind of hovering right now. So I'm thinking we probably will start picking up speed a little bit. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do one more airflow adjustment. I'm gonna increase my airflow from 60 to 65. But for some reason on this machine, that's a big adjustment. And that's gonna slow my roast down for sure. So I'm gonna ride out my fuel and probably just do that last fuel adjustment, or airflow adjustment, probably right around 9 minutes. Because 9, we're gonna be right on 380. I'm just hearing the outlier cracks right now. 9, 381, and I just increased my airflow. Just by 5. So now I'm at 65 air. And now I'm hearing crack. I didn't call it yet. I'm gonna call it at 3. Okay, we're calling right there. So 915, 385. Wow, okay, that's solid. I don't know why I said wow. I think it was just because I got excited because 915 was, for some reason, a good goal for me. Okay, so 915. So now we're gonna go minute 30 past crack. So we're looking at 10:45 overall total roast time, but we still wanna pay attention to how we're moving because we don't wanna start picking up speed. We also don't wanna crash either. And since I made that airflow adjustment, it should bring our overall roast down. So I'm actually gonna get on the tryer right now for probably the rest of the roast. Okay, I'm looking for swelling of the bean, looking for the smoothness of the outside of the bean. It's all looking good. It's still looking a little bit light though. It's in that, whoa. It's in that light mode where it actually looks dark. Where it's so light that the little canyony crevices make it look darker. Okay, so that was an 11 ROR minute, so that's solid. And so roughly we only have about 30 or about 45 seconds. Yeah, 45 seconds roughly, 30 seconds at this point. Ooh, I like this. We're down to 7 ROR, so we're slowly losing our ROR. I like it. I think I'm gonna let this one ride completely. I'm gonna let it ride right to 1045, I think, and I'm gonna drop it, because it's gonna probably hit around 398, 399, which is pretty ideal for this roast. It's quite floral in the trier. A lot of caramelized sugar, a lot of floral notes. Okay, I'm doing it. So we're at 1040, 397, and I'm going to 1045. All right, I like that. Okay, so 1045, 398. That was the final roast time on that one and temperature. And basically, I'm just gonna close the roaster, reset the timer, leave it where it's at actually with my 133 fuel, because I'm just gonna do the next roast. As soon as I get to 420, I'm gonna turn it off, and then we're just gonna go right into the next roast. Okay, so now I'm gonna let this one cool in the cooling tray for a bit. I'll show you guys this one in a second. I'm just gonna make sure everything's copacetic. Now I'm gonna quickly save this profile.
Hey, Derek.
Yes.
How would you have treated development differently than it's been a wash coffee?
I don't think I would have. So yeah, I wouldn't have changed anything, because the overall goal, not based on processing, but based on overall cup, my goals are sweetness, body, nuance, and acidity. So I'm really in this practice, or in this, I don't know what you call it, with this session, I really am trying to adhere to a consistent roast profile without deviation, so that what we taste is the processing or things like that. Now, in a different world, if we were just trying to make a washed espresso over a natural espresso, like if I had a washed Aricha instead of a natural Ethio, I would have actually went with a shorter development phase by maybe 30 to 45 seconds, and I probably would have extended shorter drying phase. I'm sorry. I would have shortened up the drying phase by 30 to 45 seconds, and I probably would have added that to development, because I would have been worried that the washed Ethio would have had so much acidity that with that short of development, it would have been too bright. With the natural, I know that I can go really short on development, and it's still going to be sweet, and the acidity is never going to be too much. Now, with the washed Ethio, it has a lot of acidity. So I would have just flipped 30 to 45 seconds from the first phase to the last phase, just to try and create more balance in that coffee. But for this practice, I'm trying to keep all the roast consistent so that the processing shows itself in the extraction. But yeah, that's a great question, and I think I answered it. Turning the roaster off now. So the coffee's almost cool. We actually had 435 for our temperature. So now I'm gonna set up my next roast. So this is gonna be Nick's. And now I'm just quickly writing 360 charge, air 50, fuel 0, 133 at 1 minute. And that's my plan.
You want to give us a shot of the coffee quick?
Yep, for sure. So I'm gonna bring it right here. So how does that work for?
I think you're okay.
And then I'm gonna show you. This is my goal. Yep, we're close. I want to say, pretty close. Yep, it's hard to see. Almost cool too. So I'm actually feeling Nick's is almost ready. And look at that. Okay. So that one I charged a little bit lower. So now I'm going to go over to my little notepad, because I have my notepad pre-set up. And I'm going to change my 360 charge to 354, because I did charge it a little lower. Now I'm not going to make any adjustments on that. I'm going to ride it out. You might ask yourself why. I'm trying to keep everything consistent. Well, my thought being is this is roast number 2. So roast number 2 is going to have, the roaster's going to have a little bit more momentum. There'll be a little bit more momentum in the roaster. So if I did start this roast 6 degrees lower and I keep all the parameters the same, I don't know the exact translation of degrees to momentum as you get deeper into a roast shift. But I'm gonna let my gut tell me that it's okay. Now you guys at home probably are gonna be like, yeah, he's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. That could be a thing too. But you know, this is an art. So there's a little bit of interpretation. So now we're looking at almost 1 minute, and I'm gonna do gas on 133. So and that was a lower turn temp. So that was 167. Or actually, I shouldn't say turn temp, the 1 minute. So the 1 minute mark on that one was 167. So now my coffee's cool here. Off with the cooling tray. I have my lovely Rattleware waiting for me. Always helps to have everything organized. You definitely don't want to be in the midst of a roast shift and try and run around and find your bags. As you see, I even pre-labeled my bags.
What RPM are we sitting at?
60 RPMs, 90 on the dial, 60, I did a hard count. I always do a hard count every time before I use any roasting machine. Even roasting machines that I'm unfamiliar with, even if I don't know if they have adjustable drum speed. I mean, how do you know the drum speed on any roaster if you don't actually hard count it? All right, now we're coming up on 2 minutes. So let's see how, now we're gonna be able to compare roast to roast too. Just so I can see how much I'm on track. Oh, look at that. 2:05, 2 minutes, 2:05. I don't know if you at home caught that, but if you just saw, I just lowered my air. So between those last two roasts, I got a little bit too busy in my head and I forgot to lower my airflow from 65 to 50, which is my initial airflow setting. So right there at 2 minutes, I actually lowered my air to 50. So now I'm gonna go back and change my air setting to 65. So my initial air setting was 65. At 2 minutes, I lowered it to 50. So that's a little weird, but I'm not really too worried about it. I'll let you guys worry about it. Okay, now we're coming up on 3 minutes. Now this is a 50-50 blend. So 50% honey Costa Rican, 50% Guatemalan, Huehue. Weird, the Guatemalan has a little bit of variance of bean size, but the Costa is really small. So I think that they actually will work together because there also is a lot of small beans in the Guat. There's just some big beans too. So we're gonna wait and see how that turns out. That'll be exciting for the extraction side. 237. Okay, so then that would be a 22 ROR minute. So we're starting to gain some speed. 3 minutes in the last roast, we were at 253. So we're moving way quicker on that last roast. So this roast is moving a little bit slower. I'm gonna say right now that that's probably because of the airflow. So we had our airflow set roughly like pretty high to start, and that probably, one of the things that'll do is that'll strip away energy. Like that air is running over the steel in your roasting drum, and it's just taking energy away. When really in the initial part of the roast, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get that energy into the bean. So I kind of, I don't know how you want to say it, but I kind of went, I zigged when I should have zagged on that one. So hopefully we'll zig back, or zag back. Okay, now we're coming up on 4 minutes. So we're probably gonna start to see some speed come up. But this roast might go longer, but then again, that last one went a little bit short for my dry phase, so this might be perfect. 267. Yep, so we're still picking up speed, so now we're 30 ROR for that last minute. So yeah, I think we'll still be fine. I think we'll be just fine. And this, like I said, this one will go a little longer in the dry phase, which is actually what we wanted to do in the first roast. So, which kind of makes sense too. Natural Ethios, all Ethios tend to be on the drier side of coffee. They tend to be a dry coffee, really good value, but they tend to roast a little quicker. They tend to be smaller beans, so they roast a little quicker. So in my experience, which isn't super great, I mean, it's 12 years of roasting, but all Ethios tend to roast a little faster than pretty much most coffees. They're just smaller and drier. So it doesn't shock me that the Ethio went a little fast. And that now my blend is going a little bit slower, or actually Nick's blend. All right, so now we're coming up on 5 minutes. Yep, now we're catching up for sure. Now we're gaining some speed. So this one might end up getting green to yellow at the same time. 292. Okay, so 25. So we got a 25 ROR. So that's nice. We peaked at 30, and now we're slowing down a little bit. So that's super solid. So we're probably going to hit our green to yellow right around 6 minutes, which is going to be perfect. So I guess one of the lessons you guys could have just learned is that you don't don't freak out when you do something when you're roasting and you're like, wow, maybe this is total, maybe I just screwed up my roast. Just calm down, take a deep breath, and just ride it out. There's a lot of times where what you think is terrible actually isn't super terrible. All right, Nick?
Adrian is wondering what you do first in a production day, espresso batches or drip?
Oh, I do drip. I tend to like drip better, but that's also a little bit of my old roaster world talking. So when I used to roast quite a bit more production style roasting, I'm just gonna get my 6-minute mark. 6 minutes, 312. So that's a 20. So we're losing our ROR a little bit. I'm just gonna do this quick and then I'll get right back to that question. So I think we're right at the transition. Yep, we are. Ooh, that's nice. Okay, we're gonna call that. So 616, 318. Nice. That was kind of the green to yellow that I was looking for to start. So now I'm gonna increase my air like I did last roast to 60. So 60 on the air, I'm gonna note that down. And that's the adjustment I'm gonna make. I'm gonna let the fuel ride out again. So yeah, so when I used to roast quite a bit more in production style, our espressos had a lot of, like a long development phase. We did this really long development phase on the espresso. And basically, if we tried to do that in the first half of the day, the roasting machine didn't have enough momentum to keep that development phase going consistently. So we'd have to end up putting in all kinds of energy and heat, and then that would make the espresso kind of kittywampus. So by midday, that roaster was just super warmed up, and then the espressos would be that much smoother. I think that that's maybe not even a terrible idea, even if you're doing shorter development phases, because as the day goes on, you have more momentum in your roaster, and you have to put less fuel in to your roasts. So basically, you can probably get a little bit better results with a little less energy input. So I'd probably save all of my special roasts to probably like quarter of the way into the day to 3/4 of the way into the day. Because probably at the end of the day, you might have a super hot machine, and that might actually be as problematic as a cold machine. So I'd probably do all my intense roasts in the middle of the day. That's just the way I would do it. That way too, you're also not tired, or like morning tired or end of day tired. But if you have some roaster, like maybe it's not you, maybe you have a production roaster person, if they're just an awesome espresso roaster and they do the morning shift, then I would have the morning shift person do the espresso. Because I know when there used to be 3 of us that would switch out as roasters, we all had a different niche of coffees we like to roast. And so we would leave those for each other. So that was just something we would do to be nice. So that's real too. It's not always about coffee quality, right? Or maybe it is. No, it's not. I'm gonna say that from my experience in restaurants is happy restaurants make better, yummy food. Miserable, horrible restaurants, yeah, you don't want to eat there. No one wants to taste hate in their food, and no one wants to taste hate in their cup.
Derek, has anyone angrily put butter into their food before? I've never seen it.
No, I don't think that's possible. I think there's something about butter and happy.
Yeah.
Butter makes happy people.
Same. And good food.
Yep, that's why everyone in Wisconsin is so happy. Sorry. All right, now we're coming up on 9 minutes. So you all at home will probably start getting excited because we're getting up to crack. We're getting closer. And with this awesome audio, I think you guys can probably hear it. So 17. So we're slowing down our RR again. So last time at 9 minutes, we were at 15. So now we're at 17. So that's solid. It's really solid. It's coming down still. I like it. This one's close. I'm not sure whether I want to lower the fuel. I almost want to lower the fuel on this one right now. Oh, I haven't done my airflow adjustment. I'm waiting for kind of crackage. Okay, I'm going to do it right now. So I'm pre-crack. Ooh, there's an outlier. So 930, 375, I increased my air to 65. And I won't forget to decrease it this time, I promise. Yep, those outliers. I think this one's gonna be more like a 385 crack, which is gonna be pretty solid. This one's going, now we're hitting 10 minutes. Oh shoot. 10 minutes, I'm gonna call that 10 minutes, 385. It was 10:03, 385. That's first. Great. That's super great. Sorry, I screwed up this thing. All right, we're back. Okay, so now we're looking at minute 30. So that makes it easy. So we're looking at like 11:33. So 10:45 was our first roast to 398. So this one we're looking at 11:33 for time to have the same development time. And 398, that's looking really good too. Okay, 11:33. I'm actually gonna lower the fuel really quickly, and this is my gut speaking to me right now, to 1 kPa. And that was at 1040. 1040, I went to 1 kPa, and you can't ask me why. I don't know why, I just needed to do that. And it might be a bad idea. We'll find out here in about 30 seconds. Ooh, it's looking good, looking good. My sample, 11 minutes, 395. Still a little bit wrinkly. 11:33 is our time goal. Okay, 11:15. We're at 396. Still looking a little bit light, a little bit dark light. Okay, now we're coming up right now. Oh yeah, now it's swelling a little bit. Okay. Oh, that's solid. Okay, we're close. We're really close. I'm turning on the cooling tray. 11:35. I'm gonna go a little long here. 11:37, 398. All right. So that one's solid. Same final temp. We did go about, what, 15, about 49 seconds longer. So we definitely have a closing the drum door, putting my air back to where it should be, resetting my timer. I'm gonna smooth my beans a little bit. I'm gonna do a little color. Oh, that looks good. Yep, yep, yep. So we had the same final temperature, but we went about 49 seconds or whatever that would be, some seconds longer. So we have a time variance there, but as far as overall temp goes, we had the exact same temp. So that's really solid, and the color looked really good. So now I'm putting my fuel back up to 133 so I can increase my temperature for the next charge. Now I'm gonna go over here and save my roast, and then as soon as we get up to temp, we're gonna go and do a third. All right. All right, we save that one. We're still on, we're almost to temp. Do a little stirring here. All right, so now I'm gonna, all right guys, I don't have to run it home, so that looks pretty good. Really similar in color. Ooh, the cooling tray's getting hot though. Really similar, ooh, it smells really good too. It's really cookie smelling. Feels like I got fresh baked cookies. Some kind of weird cookie though, not like a chocolate chip or a, yeah, it's weird. All right, 420, I'm at 420, I'm gonna turn it off, and we're gonna go down in temp. Then we're gonna get right into the next one. All right, so now we're cooling down. Turn my page, and I'm gonna do my notes again. So 360 charge, air at 50, fuel at 0 at 1 minute. I'm gonna do 133 kPa. All right. Now this is a 3 coffee blend. So we started out with a single coffee, and then we went to a 2 coffee blend, 50-50. Now we're going to a 3 coffee blend that's 40-40-20. So yeah, so if you looked in that last cooling tray and you saw a little bit of modeling variance, that's because we got 2 different beans. And you can definitely see and when I look at the cooling tray, I see about 3 or 4 colors. So we definitely have some pretty solid variance. Okay, we're coming down in temp. So we're at 370. I'm gonna switch out my bags here. Load the green hopper. 368. Starting the artisan. 365. All right, I have a little break here. I get to get a drink of coffee. And we're off. So 360 charge again. I got my airflow to 50. Drum speed I haven't adjusted at all. Cooling tray is running though, just so you guys know. You can't hear it. And like I said, I have my 1 minute, 1.33 kPa. So we're pretty much good to go. So now I just gotta wait for my minute mark, and then I'll hit it with fuel. Ooh, this is almost cool. I don't like to have the cooling tray running too long during the next roast, just because it does inhibit my hearing a little bit. And this cooling tray is super fast. And you don't want to leave your coffee in the cooling tray too long. Once it's cool, just take it out of the tray. So we're at about 40 seconds, and it's cool. So I'm gonna swap that out and turn that off. All right, now we're coming up on our minute. And seeing that I have my fuel already set, I can keep busy waiting for my minute. All right, and that's it. So 1 minute I did 133 kPa. Lovely Nick's espresso. Or hopefully it's lovely. If it's not Nick's fault. All right, now we're off and running.
Hey, what's your favorite espresso blend for milk drinks?
Milk drinks, wow. I mean, I'm gonna probably say something that's gonna probably be a fair amount of Brazil. I'd probably go, honestly, probably like a 2 to 3 coffee blend. It would probably be a fair amount of Brazil, and then I'd probably use the Wash Central South. So it'd probably be something like a Peru, a Mexico, a Colombian, a Guatemalan, probably something like that. And I probably would just have those two coffees. That it might, the ratio might be more Brazil or more wash, just depending on how it turned out and what the season was. And I probably wouldn't add a third coffee. Because the third coffee I would want to add would probably be, sorry, I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Would probably want to be a natural Ethiopian, because my gut goes right to that. The natural Ethiopians, if you're going a little darker, they add a lot of chocolate. Like the Brazils will add chocolate, but a natural Ethiopian will be like chocolate bomb with a Brazil. So I kind of want to add a little bit of natural Ethio to make it a chocolate bomb. So in milk, it's going to be like a yummy chocolatey kind of espresso. But I think that the cost of a natural Ethiopian in that blend might make sense. You know, you might get the same results with just the Brazil and the wash Central South. So I'd probably start with those two. If I felt like it didn't have enough like excitement in there, I'd probably want to add maybe 10, 20% of a natural Ethio, probably as a pre-blend too. And I'd take it like medium dark, and it would just be really chocolatey, and it would be really unique too. Because it would have a lot of spice and chocolate nuance that would be really present in milk. That was 2 minutes, 2:03 too, just so you guys know. And I'm gonna do a 3-minute one right here. And I'll probably go a little darker, you know, like if I'm doing a single, or if I'm doing one that's just for shots, I'm probably gonna keep a little more nuance and acidity in it. Because I like that. I think the shots, single origin, or not a single origin shot, but an espresso shot that you can taste some of the nuance and acidity and floral qualities in, that's really special. It's special on the extraction side, mostly, but it's also special on the roasting side. Now, if you're mixing your espresso with milk, I'm gonna go for more like the flavors that will go in milk, and I'm gonna go a little bit darker. Darker caramelized notes come through in milk a lot. You think of like a creme brulee, like why you caramelize the top, because you have all that fatty dairy underneath that kind of needs a balance. If you just ate the pudding, it would just be plain pudding. But then having that kind of burnt sugar top, that adds a dark kind of bitter note that balances out the rich sweet note. So I would kind of think about that a little bit. My milk espresso would be a little bit like a creme brulee. You're gonna go with more caramelization to balance out all that dairy. Or oat, whatever you know. I guess milks aren't always just dairy now, or mammal based. What about shark milk? Is it shark milk? Sorry. All right, 4 minutes, 273. Sharks have milk?
You went to culinary school, not me.
Sorry, dude. I don't know. Did baby sharks just eat other fish? All right, come on. There's got to be a shark expert out there, right? Or it's Shark Week, too. Sorry. I'll go home tonight. Oh. But yeah, lots of espressos used for milk-based beverages. That's totally understandable. All right, everybody. So we're coming up on, this one's looking really solid too. This one's coming along quite well. I'm gonna get on the trier a little bit just so I can see there's a lot of variance. So this is 3 beans. So the thing now with more beans is more variance of size. That's more when I think about, I mean, obviously processing is a huge part of overall cup. You know, the coffee that you drink in, or the flavors and what you perceive in your cup has a lot to do with the coffee processing, not as much as maybe the roasting. But for me, bean size has a huge part in roasting. 5 minutes, 300. Sorry about that. And so with multiple coffee blends, pre-blends, one of the things I really look for is an even uniformity of roast, even though the bean sizes are going to be different. You just want to make sure the little beans aren't getting burnt and the big beans aren't staying a little bit too raw. If that's the case, and you probably got to go with lower fuel, just low and slow. That's probably another reason why with my espressos I go with a little longer dry phase, is that slower, even, kind of low and slow dry phase gives a chance for less uniform bean sizes to kind of roast more evenly. Or maybe that's just something I made up. All right, ooh, just a tinge of yellow or green in there, which is 1 bean too probably. It's probably that Tanzania. Okay, so we're gonna say 554, 321 for green to yellow. 554, 321, and now I'm gonna increase my airflow just like the last roast to 60. All right, 6 minutes was 324. So we're moving pretty good. This one's going really well. So that was a 24 ROR minute, which at 6 minutes we were around 20, and we were around 22. So we're right in range, we're right in the game. Yep, so it's really consistent. So this one's gonna be consistent, I think, according across the board here. And honestly, like nowadays too, I don't think there's, like I'm roasting these coffees for espresso extraction, but that does not mean these are espressos. These are just me being a roaster and roasting with a little bit more of a focus and a goal. But these final roasts could be brewed anyway. This is definitely not going to be roasts that you're like, oh, you know, if you did a Hario, like a pour over, it would be terrible. Or if I did a French press, it would be terrible. No, these will be good on any brew method. And I think that the coffee industry is going a little bit more that direction, where we don't have the parameters set up so much about this roast should be for this extraction method. You know, I think that as roasters, we only have a limited amount of feathers for how we can roast. You can't reinvent the wheel every roast. That's impossible. But on the extracting side, there's way more opportunity to create new and exciting things from extraction. So like as roasters, we're all pretty much in this tight little world of what we're trying to accomplish, but in extracting, it's a way greater world of stuff. So I don't think there's as much bandwidth in the roasting side to get crazy. So I think these roasts are just roasts, you know, even though I'm calling them espresso roast, and this is all part of an espresso extraction process we're doing. I think we're gonna come to the conclusions that these roasts are good for all kinds of things, and there's really nothing that's super specific and you can only use it for one thing. Although there might be some 8361. I know we're gonna do some experiments with different brewing machines, and there could be some roasts that don't brew on certain machines well. That could be something, which that'll be an exciting down the road series. Or we might actually have to curtail certain roasting styles for certain low-end brewing methods, which that could be a thing. All right, I guess I haven't been calling out my times. So 8 was 361, I'm sorry. Now we're coming up on 9 minutes. Sometimes roasts just go so well after you get in the repetition of it all. It's a little bit like it lulls you to sleep a little bit. Not to sleep, but it lulls you into a complacency. So that's one thing as a roaster. Every 2 or 3 roasts, you should make sure you kind of shock yourself out of that complacency. If you do have that. I know I do once in a while. Okay, that was my outlier. So I'm bringing it up to 65. That's kind of what I've been doing lately with my roast air, is when I start to hear the first outliers, that's when I do my last airflow increase, because I don't want to create too much volatility around crack. But if I do it pre-crack, then it kind of, the airflow increase basically hits the drum, hits the beans, and then once the beans start to pop and everything, then I'm not doing 2 things at one time. Or I'm not doing something at the same time the beans are doing something. Now we're hearing outliers. I'm gonna call it at 3 pops together. I missed the 9 minute adjustment. I think it was 380, to be honest. Oops, sorry, computer. All right, I'm gonna say right there, 940, 387. And I think the reason why this one has more of a volatile first crack is basically because we have 3 beans. So we have 3 beans. I don't know when I did my airflow adjustment. I must have missed that one. You guys at home will know. You have to let me know. I'm gonna write that one down. 10, 391. All right, so 940 was our first crack. That last minute was 11 RO bar, so we're moving really well. So with a multiple bean blend, you have to kind of give yourself a little bit more space for first crack. Because the small little beans, which are probably the Brazils, are gonna be popping early. The Tanzanian pea berries are probably gonna pop late because they're round. And then the guats are somewhere in the middle because they have a bunch of different bean size. So you probably wanna give yourself a little bit more bandwidth when it comes to the outliers to make sure that your crack is rolling so you don't get a pre-crack call. So I call it a 940, so now we're a minute in, pretty much right here. Oh, we're moving a little fast. 1040, 398 is our first minute. So I think we moved a little, I think we dropped the last ones at 398, so I'm not gonna go much farther. 1110 will be our final time. We're gonna drop at 1110 depending on what temperature we're at. We're coming up right on it. I'm gonna get on the trier now. Ooh, this one's looking nice and smooth. Okay, ooh, it smells sweet. This one smells the sweetest of all. 1110, 400. So we went about 2 degrees darker on this one, but we had the same time. So every roast had the same post-crack development, but we did have a little bit of a temperature variance. But time, we had the same. Okay, 1110 400 on that one. That one looks super solid. So I think they all, we got a really similar roast level. And so what I'll do too is before the next episode, or at least by the third one, I'll do a roast color analysis on all three too, just so we have roast color analysis data inside, outside. So you guys know how close these actually did roast to each other. So then we do get the results on the extraction side, you're gonna be able to correlate those back to the inside, outside numbers to just try and then understand how different levels of development basically come through in the extraction in espresso, which I'm excited to learn that. So that'll be fun. All right, this one's looking really solid. Now, once again, this is a 3 coffee blend. So we definitely have a little bit more variance of color based on those coffees being blended a little bit, but overall it looks really, really close. Like I'm having a hard time actually telling the difference. Although there's a few like outlier here, the Quaker here is a little lighter, darker bean here, but other than that, they look really solid. All right, that's almost cool. So now at this point, you can see I didn't turn the roaster back on. So now I'm gonna lower my air back to my initial air setting, which is 50, and then I'll just leave it there for cool down. So I'll leave the roaster at cool down at this point. I'm gonna go over and turn off my gas on the wall. So now I have my gas off on the wall. I'll close my gas on the roaster just to make sure I'm all good. I'm gonna leave the airflow on. I have my airflow set through the drum at 50. I have the cooling tray on. As soon as the coffee's cool in the cooling tray, I'll turn off the cooling tray and let that coffee out and bag it. But basically now, I'm just gonna kind of let the roaster cool down. I'll let the roaster cool down to probably about 180 before I'll turn it off. But that won't take but 10 minutes at this setting. But that's about it. I think we're good. Any last questions, Nick?
Let's find out.
Oh, longest roast I've ever done. Okay, that's a great question. So where I used to work, we roasted quite a bit of coffee, and we had a very popular local blend that got picked up by Target, and it was a 24-minute roast. Yeah, 24 minutes. 24 minutes to not even dark. It was 24, 150 pounds. So we did it in 1-baggers. We did it on a 50-pound machine too. That's where it came from. It came from a 50-pound machine, but then we had to scale it up to a 1-bag machine. And we would roast, some days we would roast 8 batches of that coffee on the 1-bagger. That was 3.5 hours of that one coffee, dude. It was pretty harsh. I always felt bad for the roasters when they had to do that because it was 24 minutes per roast when the Ethio was like 12 minutes. So you could do 2 light Ethios in the time it would take to do one of these blends. And it wasn't even that dark. It was a 438 final temperature. So it was more like medium dark. But it had an 8-minute post-crack development. Yeah. It was crazy. Crazy good.
Someone was asking about like getting larger amounts of crema in your espresso.
Ooh.
And so there was a lot of talk about adding a Robusto to your blend to increase crema.
Wow.
Have you worked with that?
No. So when I first started in coffee, which would have been like 12 and a half, 13 years ago, that was like the, I don't know what you call it. It was like if you climb high enough on that mountain, you'll find like the thing up there. So we'd always be trudging up the mountain trying to find the thing. So no, I do know though that, what's the big Italian brand?
Illy.
Oh, the other one, Lavazza. Yeah, Lavazza does a high crema that they add Robusta to.
Yeah.
And some of the local shops use it, but other than that, I've never experienced any of that. I've never tried it. I've never done it. I think now that there's finally higher quality Robustas out there, that might be something to try. But I think I always kind of felt like that might have been just like kind of lore, like coffee roasting lore. Like it might be real, but I probably think it's not. You know what I mean? I think you could probably get good crema, and this is going to be more of an extraction question. You could probably get good crema from just doing good extraction. My gut tells me.
Well, and roasting dark.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, right, having soluble particles.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you send me some Robusta, I'll totally roast that.
All right, the other end of the spectrum, possibly the last question. What's the fastest coffee you've roasted?
Ooh, that's a great question, dude. That would be a 7.5-minute Colombian Cauca. It, as a sample roast, it tasted like orange juice concentrate. So I did not even want to mess with it.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, this coffee comes out so insanely acidic and yummy, but at the same token as sweet as it was acidic. That's probably my favorite coffee I've ever roasted in my life. Yep. Fondo Paez was the cooperative.
We've got our next live stream set up.
Cool.
We'll be back on Wednesday.
Back on Wednesday.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. Don't drink too much coffee. You won't sleep. Have a good night.